Hi, my name is Tomasz Pożytek. I am right now at the Polish coast near the Baltic Sea. So behind these trees, behind them, there is a sea. This is the same moment when we have the Microsoft Build conference. And yesterday, Microsoft announced a couple of information that were really interesting. But something that really grabbed my attention was the fact that Microsoft announced the acquisition of the Softomotive company. Is a maker of the WinAutomation tool. Now, WinAutomation is just another tool on the RPA market, but having this inside Microsoft lets you to combine UI flows with Power Automate with WinAutomation, and together they create a very advanced, let's say, set of tools that you can use to create very complex and as well advanced scenarios in the RPA. So without further notice, because I have this tool already installed, let me take you on a journey where I will show you a big picture of how the how the WinAutomation is working and how you can create your very first easy RPA process. Okay, so stay tuned. I'm now heading back to my computer, so I'll see you in a minute. All right, so I have my WinAutomation up and running. I'm authenticated. Remember that if you want to try WinAutomation yourself, you either have to have a trial license assigned or you have to have a paid plan for RPA per user. Now, I noticed one thing yesterday because when I assigned a trial license to my account, it actually took like 30 minutes for the WinAutomation to actually acknowledge that I do have this license assigned. And until then, it was constantly showing me this irritating warning that, or error message, that I don't have a valid license assigned to my account, and so that it will exit. I was a little bit frustrated because of that, but well, finally after these 30 minutes, it all started to working fine. So anyway, once you start the WinAutomation, it is starting with the console. Console is like a main page, main screen for the WinAutomation. Here you have a list of all your processes split in this visual logic structure of folders and subfolders. And you can organize it very easily just by drag and drop things between each other. So that is really, really easy. Now, the very good thing is that once you install WinAutomation on your computer, it starts with this folder of examples. So you can actually go through a list of pre-created examples for you from the very easy one to the most advanced scenarios and check how they were built so you can actually try and learn on the examples. This really helps to make this adoption faster. Now, there is also a ribbon. Why not? And on the ribbon, there are 5 tabs on the ribbon. And the first one lets you actually just to create processes, import, export processes, start them, stop them, and work on the process level. Then the second one is a list of triggers where you can actually define a trigger, so how your process should be launched. Now, when speaking about the WinAutomation and UI flows, the approach for triggering the processes is set to be through the Windows console. So you have to call from UI flow, so Windows console, then type in the command to trigger WinAutomation, and that's it. Then you have the scheduler, so you can create a scheduled trigger, so to run the process on the schedule basis. Logs, that shows you information about the runs of your processes. And finally, options, which is like the heart of the WinAutomation, where you can define the credentials, keys, some passwords, and configuration of the whole platform. Okay, so I'll start now with the creation of my very first process. And this is the process I'm usually showing during the sessions around the UI flows. So the creation of the new record in Contoso invoicing application. It's a very old legacy application. It has no interface, no API. So the only way I can register this new record here is actually via the RPA. So that's the Contoso invoicing. Let me just jump back here. Now, once I start creation of the new process, I am proposed like 3 options to choose from. So the first one is a process designer, the heart of every process where you actually craft the process from the pieces. Now, the second one is macro recorder, which is actually used to record user activities, user mouse clicks, user keyboard inputs on the desktop applications. And the same using the web recorder, speaking about the web pages. Anyway,
we always end up in the process designer. So, okay, Conto's recorder. The process designer is split between several windows, several areas. The first one on the left is actions. Actions is a very huge set of all the activities you can actually put into your flow, into your WinAutomation flow. They are split between, they're split in folders with names of third-party applications or just like logic usage of the specific actions. But what I like the most is this search box here. So whenever I think about an activity and about an action I would like to put in my WinAutomation flow, I can simply like put a name or a keyword like variable, and then the interface is narrowed down to all the actions that match the input token. And this is really useful because if you somehow know what you want to do, if you want to know what action you'd like to put in your flow, then by using a similar name or the name, you can very often find what you're looking for. Then there is the designer canvas, the main canvas, where you simply put the actions and well, order them in a logical flow. Then the functions. Functions are used to separate the logic of your RPA into pieces. So if you have a very large logic and you want to make it more readable or easier to maintain, to develop, you have to split it in functions so that in a flow, then you just need to call an action, not to have a set of actions inline. And then the functions are actually both reusable, so you can call them from other actions or from other functions as well. Uh, and they really make the whole logic easier to read and to work with. Variables are used to create input and output variables, as well to create and store variables that are being used as the process goes on. The controls repository is area where you can find all the named and identified fields from both the desktop applications and web applications that are being used inside the flow. Um, there is one last thing that helps you to organize the set of actions to make the whole logic somehow easier to digest, and it's called the region. So the region is like a scope in Power Automate. So this is, or like in the JSON. So you can put actions inside the region and then simply collapse or expand. So therefore, you don't actually have to have the list of all the actions visible ad hoc or at once. Now, I'll start with the creation of variables. So I need the four variables. The first one is account. The second one, then the third one is amount. And the last one is going to be status. Okay, so the variables have been created. And what I'm going to do right now is to use the macro recorder to actually record the first steps of the automation of Contoso invoicing application, as it is somehow easier to do it this way. So I'm gonna click it here. And what you can see is the macro recorder window that is used to store here in this main pane all the actions I'm doing on the UI of the application, where I can also insert a comment, where I can also reset the actions I've done, and I can switch between the smart recording and based on the coordinates. So what is the difference? The difference is the smart recording is trying to actually identify the specific control in UI to get its ID, to get its target information, so that it doesn't matter then where you will launch this application, maybe on a computer with a different resolution, or maybe the application is going to be launched in a full screen mode. The WinAutomation will always know where exactly to click, where this control located. With the based on coordinates, it will simply record the Y and X of the mouse position, mouse cursor position, and then it will try to click the same location wherever it is launched. So even if this is a different application, if it is then launched in a full screen mode, if this is a different screen resolution, it will always click in this specific place. So it it may not work every time perfectly. Okay, so now I'll just hit my Contoso invoicing and I'll start clicking. So now invoices, And you see, it didn't actually recorded the fact that I've hit the invoices. Um, so I clicked the element in a window. I didn't do a double click, I just did a single click. Um, Now I need to input the values. And now this is, so I've been playing with this macro recorder for a while before I actually recorded this session, and I have noticed that it is not really working perfectly. I don't know if this is related to my computer or my screen resolution or whatever else I do have on my computer installed, but it just doesn't work perfectly. So for example, even though I put values in two different fields, the recorder recorded this as a single input. So then once I play it, it will actually type in account 1234 ASDF, not in two fields. So let me show you how to do it better. I'll remove these fields. Let it just live on this step and then finish. So a couple of clicks are actually recorded. Now what I actually want to do is to register, is to create those controls definitions manually. So for that, I need to hit this add control button and then actually hover the place I want to store as a control with the left click button hold. So I want to record this as invoices, label. I want to record this as a new button. Okay, let me just rename it. I want as well to record this because I will then try to save the button, save the record. And then the account. So for that, UI flows was working a little bit better. And the status. Last thing is to get these values. Now, note if I hit Control plus Shift, then instead of simply registering or saving this control definition, I see all the information WinAutomation is actually able to grab out of this UI element. Okay, and then let's start automation. So I now want to click element in the window. So then I need to choose a control I actually want to click, which is the invoices label. Now note that for each action, I have this small option here to tick whether it is enabled or disabled. So if this action is disabled, it will stay in the flow, but it won't be executed. So that if you're trying to test something out and you don't want to delete the steps you've created, you can simply disable them. Now just copy, paste. It's very, very simple. The second one is going to be the new icon. Okay, so now I'm in a position where I'm actually creating a new record, right? So now I'm here. So the next thing I want to do is to put the focus in a text field or in a field in the window. And I want to put a focus in account window. Note that for fields that actually are interactive, for actions that are actually interacting with the UI, there is also a second tab that is called an exception handling. And this is exceptionally useful because with exceptions, you can actually define how the WinAutomation should behave if, for example, this control is not available, or if there is any kind of an error that it cannot be handled, and then the process cannot just move on. So you can do here a really advanced error handling to make this whole flow really errorless. Okay, so now I have a focus in the window, in the field, and now I want to send keys. And here, I don't want to send anything hard-coded. I want to send the account value. So I'm choosing from the variables and done. And now I'll simply copy paste it 3 times, just changing the values and the variables and the fields. If I type anything between the percentage icons or symbols, it is meant as a variable. So I don't actually need to every time click the gear icon. It is enough to simply type manually. And now amount. Okay. Now I want to as well set the value of the drop-down field, and there is a dedicated action for that. It's called set drop-down list value in a window. And here again, I need to point to a field. Then I need to change the operation, and I want to select an option by name. And again, the name is the status text value. Okay, and the next thing I want to do is to actually get the details of this field, so to get the ID. So for that, I need to say get details of element in window, and this is going to be my number variable. And I can as well store element text into the value, and for this I want to use my let's say new variable called invoice number. All right, so let me check if this is actually working. I need to close okay, and one last thing, to close the application so that there is no second window to interfere with the new one. And I want to close the Windows Controls Invoicing. Okay. All right, so now let me check if this is working. So here on the ribbon, I have this play button, and let it work. Let me check if it's working. Cool. It seems it's working. Everything was recorded properly. The outcome invoice number has this value, so everything looks fine. So now the question is, how can we actually trigger this WinAutomation process out of UI flows? Well, the documentation says this can be done using the command line tool. So UI flows should trigger the Windows command line and then simply execute a command line. So now I'll just move this controls recorder of mine to the test folder and simply switch to the command line. And this is the command that should be actually executed. So it should trigger the WinAutomation controller.exe and start my robot's tests. So this is the path to the folder where I put my robot. Okay, so now let me just check it. So now I can see the action actually is being executed. So this is, it looks like it's working. Yep, done. So now what should I do to actually pass the parameters? Well, I want, for example, that first is going to be the account, John Snow. The second one is going to be John's mail. The third one, a value. And then, for example, the status. So let's say invoiced. So now I want to pass these parameters to my bot out from UI flow. So if UI flows execute this command, then this will simply pass the parameters from the Power Automate through UI flows to WinAutomation. How to do that? Well, quite simple. I need to go back to my controller recorder and now to add new action that is called the get command line argument. So I'll just put it in the beginning. All right. And then I simply need to set the values, set variables. So the first variable
I want to use the command line arguments 0, and this is going to be my account. I'll multiply it. So second one will be contact. The third one will be amount. And last one is going to be the status. Save. And let me check it once again. Okay. Sorry, I just hit accidentally enter. All right. So now it is getting executed, and the parameters are inputted from the command. Let us see if this is actually working. Okay, so this is my short introduction to WinAutomation tool. I hope you like it. Well, sorry, I can't do anything short. So even this as said, short introduction takes long minutes, but hopefully you get now a bigger picture on how this tool can be used, how you can integrate WinAutomation with UI flows, and how you can extend actual UI flows and your Power Automate processes with this new tool that Microsoft gives you to make your RPA processes even more complex and more advanced. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to my channel, follow me on my Twitter, and yeah, ask questions under the blog post if you do have any. Thank you very much again. Bye.